Hi everyone, hope you enjoy my recap, and subscribe after all. Idian is a place where one never ages and is forced to endlessly battle demonic beasts. This realm is described as a divine playground. Rai Yun German explains he awoke there after dying on the continent of Drea, along with others who were also dragged there without understanding why. He subsequently joined forces with these other players. In this hell they never aged and had to fight endlessly for survival. He fought battle after battle without end against monstrous foes. After spending over a century on the edge of life and death, he continued to fight. To reclaim the freedom stolen from them, he made his final move. He challenged the one who created this hell solely for amusement. Rai Yun is shown falling and bleeding after confronting the god of Idian. The god of Idian appears as a massive purple demonic entity with glowing red eyes. Rai Yun lies injured and bleeding on the ground. He declares Rei's dead with a determined expression. Rai Yun stands in a glowing blue magic circle as various demonic beasts begin to rise around him. He thought if he could just hold on a little longer it would all be over. The magic circle then expands with green and blue energy. Skeletons and other undead creatures are raised by his necromancy. More undead monsters rise glowing with green energy. Rai Yun reflects that where all other players had failed he succeeded. He walks away from the battle scene towards a bright horizon. Rai Yun continues walking through the landscape towards a bright light. He smiles with a confident expression. In this hellish Idian, other players call out to Ghost King Rai Yun asking him to free them. A crying female player asks for liberation as Rai Yun stands by. She begs him to free them from this hell. Rai Yun looks up at the god of Idian thinking that killing him will end everything. The god of Idian, also known as the Overlooker, is revealed. The god of Idian then addresses Rai Yun German. He recounts Rai Yun's past as a noble from Drea who was captured, died, and then arrived in Idian. Rai Yun angrily tells him to shut up. The god of Idian further states that Rai Yun mastered Ghost Assassin and Necromancer classes in 100 years, finding it interesting. Rai Yun accuses the god of Idian of trapping them in this endless battlefield and playing with them. Rai Yun charges at the god of Idian, who laughs and calls him the best. The god of Idian says he will play with Rai Yun longer and prepares an attack with golden energy. Rai Yun looks surprised as golden energy engulfs him. A large golden explosion then blasts the area. Rai Yun is caught in the powerful golden energy. The god of Idian maniacally smiles and repeats Rai Yun German's name. The god of Idian asks Rai Yun if he has any last words as Rai Yun sheds a tear. The god of Idian offers Rai Yun one wish, but Rai Yun replies he does not need anything like that. The god of Idian states that Rai Yun already made his wish as a large golden hand reaches up. A large Gothic building stands under a bright blue moon. Inside, a dark dungeon features a torchlit stone staircase leading down. Grunting and screaming sounds emanate from behind a barred cell door where blood stains the floor. A young Rai Yun is revealed, his face and mouth covered in blood. He is heavily chained, bleeding, and being tortured over a fire pit. A white-haired figure holds Rai Yun's head, finding him entertaining and noting his family's direct bloodline is always born with talent. The figure then holds a glowing sharp object near Rai Yun's bleeding face. He continues stating Rai Yun was blessed, and yet he explains Rai Yun received a curse instead of a blessing, possessing no talent but great resilience. Rai Yun struggles to speak to the white-haired figure. He manages to utter a plea for death. The white-haired figure smiles, claiming he cannot understand Rai Yun and asking if his tongue should have been left intact. He then states he thought he could extract something useful from the German bloodline, but now finds it boring. He suddenly remembers Rai Yun is not to die today because of the Patton family. The white-haired figure exclaims that 3 years have already passed, marking the 3rd anniversary. Rai Yun is seen still chained, bleeding, and bent over on the floor. A window reveals the blue moon outside the dungeon. Rai Yun is now sitting against the cell wall, surrounded by blood and torture tools. The white-haired figure appears next to Rai Yun, repeating the thought that 3 years have already passed. A large banner with a skull symbol hangs over a procession of knights on horseback. Narration describes the Dark Zone as a place endlessly spawning monsters. It continues that a family defends the front lines against demonic beasts invading the Drea continent. This family is among the Drea continent's 5 great noble families. It is the most powerful and mighty great house German. With the sudden disappearance of his father and brothers, the family rapidly declined. The other great noble house Patton did not miss the opportunity. They then crushed the German family. What they were after was the blessing passed down through the German family, the dragon's bloodline. Direct descendants with that blood could become a 7-circle archmage by age 10 and achieve sword master status by 15. But Rai Yun could not do any of that because of the curse of the demon King Arkan, which appears once every few centuries in the family. Rai Yun is shown as a young boy struck by that curse and chained with purple energy. He thinks that if not for that curse, if he had power. He continues thinking they would not have been crushed by the Patton family. He thinks he would not have had to endure horrific experiments and torture from Sense Patton. Rai Yun sheds a bloody tear, thinking no. He is too exhausted to regret anymore as glowing rats appear in the dungeon. He can feel it as a ghostly wolf appears. Ryan knows today is his last day as glowing energy leaves his body. He cries thinking he can finally find peace. A golden hand reaches out to him offering to grant a wish. Ryan opens his eyes wide as a voice calls out young master. He is surprised to see Colin the German family nanny who asks what if someone as frail as him overworks themselves. Ryan wonders if it is truly Colin and why she appears so young. He looks at the grand building outside wondering if it could be. Ryan urgently asks Colin for a mirror. He looks into the mirror and sees his younger self. Ryan asks Colin today's date and she replies it is August 17th year 1892 of the Drea calendar. He is shocked to hear it is year 1892. Ryan realizes that is definitely when he was 12 years old. He also realizes it is at the same time. It is when the great house of German. It began its downfall at the hands of the Patton family. The god of Adian appears again stating he will grant Ryan a wish. Ryan looks determined wondering if he has actually returned to that time. He walks across the room. Alejandro, the German family's knight commander, tells Ryan he thought he was faking illness again for not getting up. Ryan looks at him in surprise. Alejandro says Ryan must be unwell. Alejandro tells him he may skip today's training. Ryan holds Colin and says no. Ryan smiles and confidently states he is fine. He then asks Alejandro what today's training entails. Alejandro is surprised Ryan is okay with training after being offered to skip it, mentioning longsword footwork. Alejandro looks at Ryan wondering if he is really the young master. Ryan confirms he is definitely Ryan German. Alejandro looks confused as Ryan thinks about the wish and regression deciding who cares. Ryan holds a sword and tells Alejandro to skip the sword footwork suggesting monster hunting instead. Ryan looks determined thinking this is an opportunity to set everything right. A grand building stands under a clear blue sky. Inside a status window displays Ryan German level 1 with strength 7 agility 5 stamina 3 mana 0 and the curse of Arkan SS. Ryan observes the status window thinking he can still utilize its functions despite his regressed body. He considers a unique ability just as a goblin suddenly appears screaming. Ryan holds a sword ready as the goblin attacks him from above. The goblin charges at him with its weapon while other goblins watch. Alejandro and Colin look on with visible concern. Colin shouts for someone to intervene, reminding Sir Knight Commander that the young master usually collapses from merely facing a goblin. Ryan grips his sword thinking that until yesterday Colin's words would have been true for him. His face shows deep concentration as he prepares himself. His eyes glow blue as he opens them, declaring he can see it now. System warnings appear stating the curse of Arkan is activating and your fear of monsters is amplifying. Ryan acknowledges that this intense fear of monsters is indeed a part of Demon King Arkan's curse. Alejandro tells Ryan that he has done enough for today. Ryan, however, takes a determined step forward, stating this is not enough. He faces the screaming goblin again, his sword poised for action. Ryan's face shows intense resolve, though still mixed with struggle. He tells himself to stay calm, asserting that he is no longer the Ryan of the past, and it is just a single goblin. His eyes glow blue again as he declares he can do this, adding that a curse like this is nothing compared to the threat from that bastard. The goblin screams and the god of Adian smiles with glowing eyes. Ryan faces the god of Adian, who is surrounded by golden and dark energy. Ryan swings his sword with a determined expression. He strikes the goblin with his sword. Alejandro and Colin look on with shock at his unexpected action. System messages appear stating Ryan has overcome the curse of Arkan and its grade has been downgraded. The goblin is heavily injured and falls to the ground. Ryan looks resolute with glowing eyes as a system message confirms he no longer feels fear toward monsters. He then asks the knight commander for a real sword. Alejandro holds out a real sword, asking if Ryan is sure about this while Colin looks terrified. Ryan smiles confidently, his blue eyes glowing. Alejandro thinks the young master has finally become a man. The chain goblin looks injured and defeated. Ryan raises the real sword above his head, preparing to strike the goblin. He strikes the goblin with the sword, splattering blood. Alejandro states a ray of light now shines upon the declining German family and tells Colin to watch carefully. Ryan stands over the defeated goblin and Alejandro declares he is truly the next head of the German family. Later, Ryan splashes water on his face. He looks at his reflection in the mirror. Ryan thinks the status window and system support both work, and he has confirmed he can overcome the curse of Arkan. He stands looking out a window thinking he can grow stronger. Ryan looks at his status window again. He notes he gained experience, but it is too little, realizing he needs to hunt thousands of goblins to level up. He thinks he needs to hurry because the day screams will fill the German household is fast approaching. Ryan looks at his reflection and confirms he can overcome the curse of Arkan. He looks determinedly at his status window stating he cannot let this opportunity slip away. He thinks about the current situation of the German family, noting his father and brothers went missing 2 years ago. He realizes they are barely maintaining their position as a great noble house, and the schemes of their enemies have not started yet. Ryan clenches his fist, confirming he has found one method to level up. He looks resolute with glowing eyes, thinking it is time to verify the second method. Sana, a woman with red hair and a mask, walks down a hallway. She's sitting across from Ryan and says she heard about the goblin hunt. Sana asks Ryan if he is seriously calling her for magic training. Ryan thinks about Sana, the magic division commander of the German family, comparing her to Alejandro. Sana asks if he is getting cocky just because he killed a single goblin, reminding him magic training is different from swordsmanship from the very beginning. She asks if he has forgotten they did not proceed because he has no talent, and Ryan confirms he remembers. Ryan explains that thanks to Arkan's curse, he had a body that could not feel mana or learn anything. He states that was until yesterday and asks what if he can feel mana now. Sana looks surprised by his question. A teacup on a saucer glowed with golden energy containing a golden orb. Sana stood surrounded by fiery red and yellow mana with a large red dragon construct hovering above her. Sana instructed Ryan to open his eyes, explaining she had drawn a picture using only mana visible through magical perception. As Ryan looked at the mana drawing, she asked him to identify her creation if his earlier statement was true. Ryan immediately identified it as a beautiful red dragon, which surprised Sana. He questioned if his identification was incorrect, but Sana confirmed he was not acknowledging his true change from yesterday. She then inquired how he had overcome the family curse, explaining she had even set a trick to make the drawing appear as something other than a dragon. Sana wondered how he had overcome the curse, noting that her teaching him the method to sense mana should not have been enough. Ryan affirmed his ability to sense mana. He then explained he could not use the family's mana cultivation technique and needed her help for that. Sana recalled that mana cultivation was an essential method for leveling up and asked if he had already tried it. She explained that helping with mana cultivation meant entering his body to guide the mana, thus holding his life and death in her hands. Ryan questioned if she intended to kill him, and Sana looked flustered as he added he was in no position to resist her. He conveyed to Sana that she was the only one he could ask this favor of. A flashback then revealed Ryan in his previous life amidst fire and destruction. It continued, showing Sana protecting him until the very end, even with her mana depleted and body breaking down. Ryan looked at Sana, calling her name. He told her he trusted her more than anyone, extending his hand toward her. Ryan's outer clothes lay neatly folded and placed on a chair. He knelt on the floor without his top, revealing glowing white markings on his chest and arms emanating blue mana. Sana declared she would begin, and pink mana glowed in the room. Standing over Ryan, radiating red and yellow mana, Sana initiated the blue earth cultivation technique passed down only to the family's direct bloodline. Ryan considered how Sana had only explained the theory, but could use the technique for mana cultivation to raise stats and level in Adian. Sana instructed Ryan to concentrate, and he acknowledged her. She warned him he might experience intense pain and must not make a sound or thrash about as she placed her hands on his back. She added that if the pain became too much to bear, he must strongly think about stopping. Ryan closed his eyes in pain with green mana swirling around him. A flashback then depicted Ryan chained and bleeding, followed by Alejandro covered in blood. His eyes opened wide, showing determination despite the pain. He exclaimed his trust in Sana as she continued to channel mana into him. Sana closed her eyes, understanding his resolve. She channeled red and green mana into Ryan, who was enveloped in golden and blue mana. Ryan's body glowed with internal mana pathways, and his eyes burned with golden energy. Notifications appeared stating the curse of Arkan is activating and the mana dwelling in your body is scattering. Sana noted that the curse of Arkan was activating as expected, just as she had heard from the family head. She decided to inject more mana into Ryan. Multiple notifications appeared stating the curse of Arkan is activating, while Sana continued channeling mana. More notifications repeated the curse of Arkan is activating. Ryan observed that only he received these notifications, seeing Arkan's curse trying to scatter mana and Sana's mana trying to overcome it. Sana thought the outcome was obvious, stating even a 7-circle archmage's mana could not overcome this highest grade curse. Ryan thought he could apply the cultivation method from Adian, deciding to let the curse that ruptures mana activate and confine its range within his body. He believed he could trick the curse and keep the mana inside his body as golden mana swirled around him. Sana looked worried, noticing that the scattered mana was not leaving Ryan's body. Ryan's body glowed with golden mana as a notification stated, "You are resisting the curse of Arkan." Several notifications appeared alternating between the curse of Arkan is activating and "You are resisting the curse of Arkan." Ryan felt immense pain as his mana pathways burned. He defiantly questioned if they thought he would give up, his eyes glowing with determination. He recalled enduring pain thousands of times and proclaimed himself Adian's master player. Blood streamed from Ryan's eyes and mouth as he screamed in pain. He asserted that no one understood mana better than him as he was enveloped in purple and black mana. Ryan declared that understanding was remembered by his soul, not his body, as his body glowed with blue and golden mana. The god of Idian appeared, remarking that a curse from some demon king he had never seen was not even called the god of Idian. A glowing symbol shattered into pieces. Ryan screamed as blue mana erupted from his body, cracking the floor beneath him. Sena looked shocked as golden mana burst from Ryan, pushing her back. Golden particles of mana burst from Ryan's head. Ryan collapsed forward and Sena cried out his name. Ryan struggled to breathe, thinking the pain was unbearable and his consciousness was fading. He reassured himself that it was okay. Blood splattered across a window, showing a bright sky outside. More blood splattered across the window. Ryan was then shown in a dark dungeon, tied up and bleeding, surrounded by three masked figures who discussed experimenting on him or disposing of him. His captors decided to finish quickly and return to the Patton house. A sharp blade flashed across the panel. A hooded figure with white hair and a mask attacked one of Ryan's captors, splattering blood. The hooded figure was covered in blood, and one of the captors exclaimed in shock. Ryan looked up, bloodied, recognizing an intruder and urging his captors to stop him. Ryan looked up at a bright full moon in the night sky and wondered where he was. He saw a dark forest path with bloodstains and questioned how he was outside. Ryan saw the hooded figure, who asked if he was conscious. The hooded figure, Alejandro, was revealed to be bloodied but determined. Alejandro apologized for being late. Ryan cried out Alejandro's name, asking if he had come to rescue him. Alejandro smiled faintly, calling Ryan young master. Alejandro, riddled with arrows, knelt holding Ryan and apologized. Ryan cried out in anguish, covered in blood. Tears streamed down his face. Ryan woke up in bed crying with sunlight streaming in. He wondered if the cultivation had succeeded, but seeing that memory again in a dream made the feeling completely disappear. Ryan reassured himself that it would not happen again because now he had the means, as images of his past suffering and Alejandro appeared. He woke up in his bed, glowing with golden mana, thinking he could not let others find out about this ability. He realized he especially needed to be careful of the highly vigilant Patton family, as he was not strong enough to stop them yet. Ryan clenched his fist, deciding his next move was to first accelerate the downfall of the Sermon family. Ryan concluded the mana cultivation technique had failed. Sena reacted with a shocked expression, asking what had happened. Ryan sat in his bed as Alejandro and Sena stood nearby. He felt sorry for them visiting, but knew he could not tell them the truth. He reflected that while there was no secret he could not tell, he questioned if the truth would help them or if they would believe his story. Considering it a different matter, he stated he had tried his best because everyone had high expectations. He claimed he could not feel a trace of mana and invited Sena to check for herself. Sena, not understanding why the young master denied his success, asked to be excused. She then activated Mana Detect. Holding Ryan's hand, golden energy pulsed around them. Sena continued holding his hand while Alejandro watched from behind. Sena reacted with shock, thinking this could not be true. She exclaimed that the mana had really disappeared. She thought Ryan certainly had mana dwelling within him just yesterday. Sena then excused herself, walking away distressed as Ryan called her name. Alejandro told Ryan not to be too disappointed, suggesting he focus on swordsmanship since he had succeeded in hunting monsters. Ryan replied he could not do it twice, mentioning that even eating had been difficult since then, and asked if Alejandro had heard from Colin. Alejandro looked shocked and concerned by his words. 2 months later, a large mansion was seen covered in snow. Inside the mansion, Colin opened a door. Colin thought the young master had not come again today. She reflected that the Sermon household was running without its family head, with only the head of the house busy trying to maintain it. A male servant asked Colin if the young master was not coming out of his room again today, and she confirmed it. The male servant noted it had been 3 months since Ryan showed them a monster in the training grounds, and he no longer listened to the night commander. A female servant commented that people die when they change suddenly, and that it was just a one-night dream. Colin argued that was not true, stating the young master had tried to meet everyone's expectations that day. She considered the situation an omen of doom for the Sermon family. Colin thought that while people inside the Sermon household called Ryan the young master throughout the kingdom, he was called the scoundrel of the Sermon family. She asked if that was too harsh for a 12-year-old young master, but the male servant replied that great expectations bring great disappointments, especially for a noble family in decline. The male servant added that employees were quitting left and right, and he would quit after this month too. Colin looked worried, wondering what she would do. Ryan sat at a dining table reaching for a knife. He observed that the quality of the food was declining, meaning the family's finances were becoming critical. He smirked, thinking it was just as planned. He considered that if he were his past self who knew nothing, he would use up the remaining family assets trying various things for the family's revival. The current him with Idian's experience was different. He decided to hold his breath and wait, putting his enemies off guard, as the time to cut their throats and slice their bellies was not far away. The downfall began with the sudden disappearance of the family head, and Ryan's brothers and mages who went searching never returned. The Sermon family now lacked the manpower and resources to send out more search parties, and the training grounds were no longer bustling. The training grounds now held only a few unskilled knights and unmotivated attendants. The night sky showed scattered stars and clouds. The training grounds were desolate with swords stuck in the ground. Vassals of other nobles who came to get acquainted with the next family head saw the chaos and never returned. Yun lay in his bed thinking it was peaceful enough that he could act holed up in his room to his heart's content. He thought the pace of decline was slower than expected, and that even a rich family takes 3 generations to fall, so he would act more decisively starting tomorrow. Colin burst into Yun's room calling for him. She declared it was training time and the knight commander was waiting, then urged him to go. Yun lay in bed looking annoyed. He told Colin he wanted to rest today too. Colin pulled the blanket off him. Yun looked surprised, asking what was happening. Colin carried Yun out of the room and he called her name in surprise. Colin looked determined with a fierce expression. She declared she would absolutely never leave the Sermon family as an image of her holding a baby Yun appeared. Colin continued carrying Yun out of the room and he laughed. During sword training, Alejandro yelled at Yun, telling him that was not how to grip a sword. Alejandro explained that even if mana was lost, it was easier to feel again, and that the swordsmanship Yun was learning was a technique where mana naturally dwelled by swinging the sword. Yun looked exasperated at Alejandro, who had not given up yet. He thought he would like to reward their loyalty and passion, but could not let them discover he had been secretly training at night using the body domination skill. He considered body domination a skill useful for assassination, in Idian's view one that deceives the body's condition, and in his current state it was barely activated in a crude way. Yun gained experience and his stamina increased by 1. His strength increased by 1 and he looked distressed thinking about it. Yun suddenly ran off saying he needed the bathroom for a second, and Alejandro called out to him. He thought it was still unstable to use skills and that sudden movements broke the domination. He opened his status window. His status showed him at level 3 with agility 11, strength 17, mana 10, stamina 14, and curse of Arcan B, and he thought his progress was very smooth. He smirked with green energy around his fist, thinking 3 months of secret training was paying off. He planned that once all his stats reached the 20s, he would start leveling up properly, first obtaining the ghost class like Idian, then raising Necromancer and Assassin to higher tiers. He then noticed Alejandro with a guest. Yun recognized the guest as Truno Hilda, the Sermon family's head steward, who apologized for interrupting his training. Yun thought the situation was different from before his regression, but based on the timing, Truno Hilda must have visited to deliver a letter. Yun held the scroll thinking it had already come to this, and wondered about the contents of the letter. The letter was an invitation to the birthday party of Prince Kyle Daron, the second prince of the Daron Kingdom, in December year 1892 of the Drea calendar. Yun looked resolute thinking about that day. A puzzle piece representing the Sermon family's downfall plan fell into place. Yun yawns, stirring awake while traveling in a carriage. Truno Hilda asks if he is awake, noting he slept soundly and that Colin had changed his clothes. Colin is seen holding new clothes, and Truno Hilda mentions it was hard to stop him from coming along. Yun understands that Alejandro and Sena are not accompanying them on this journey. Truno Hilda explains a massive monster horde appeared unexpectedly, making the timing perfect for their absence. Alejandro was dispatched to the border for the Sermon family's mission to prevent monsters from crossing. Sena is away due to her mother's sudden summons, as the family had a request she could not refuse. Truno Hilda assures Yun there is nothing to worry about despite a 12-year-old representing the family. He adds that no one in the Daron Kingdom would dare touch a direct Sermon family member. Yun thinks that would only be true for the Sermon family that once represented the Daron Kingdom. He reflects that in the past, a servant could have been sent, but now the fallen family head must personally attend the prince's birthday. Yun acknowledges he created this situation, and Truno Hilda says he can see it. The carriage continues its journey towards the capital of the Daron Kingdom named Daron. Soon the carriage approaches the grand buildings of the capital. A long red carpet leads to a building where many people are gathered. Yun steps out of the carriage upon arrival. Prince Kyle Daron welcomes him, addressing him as the Dragon of Drea. He is identified as Kyle Daron, the second prince of the Daron Kingdom. Yun bows, stating it is an honor to be invited, and thanking Prince Kyle for the kingdom's hospitality. Yun looks intently, thinking about the word hospitality. He feels the gazes from the castle entrance to the palace. He observes the concerned looks from the kingdom's citizens for the crumbling Sermon family. Yun notes his reputation is spreading smoothly, as people call him the rumored hopeless scoundrel and an omen of doom. He feels hidden mockery and contempt from the nobles as well. Yun smiles, thinking everything is flowing according to plan. He awkwardly greets people with a hello. Truno Hilda covers his face in embarrassment at the display. Other nobles smirk and laugh at Yun. Yun grins, wondering if he should keep playing along with this tune. Later, an escort asks another to listen. One escort asks if they arrived a week before the birthday party as the young master's escort, and the other confirms it has been 5 days since he entered. The first escort suggests they arrived early to exchange with other delegations, but the second tells him to have realistic expectations. The escort laments that Yun could not even properly greet the nobles when they arrived at the palace. He adds that Yun has been in his assigned room for 5 days without budging despite the palace being in full swing with pre-birthday events. He imagines delicious food, drinks, and women at these events. Another escort tells the captain everyone was complaining, so he sent their youngest to persuade the young master. The youngest escort returns with Yun, who is now dressed differently, and says he plans to attend tonight's banquet and wants the escort team to prepare. The youngest escort confirms that is what the young master said. The escorts high-five excitedly at the news. The youngest escort adds that Yun asks them to keep his attendance a secret until then, including from Chief Steward Truno. The escorts argue that they need preparation and should report, but others say it is fine as long as they can attend the banquet. Yun walks away from the hurrying escorts thinking this should settle the complaints. He reveals he spent the past few days training hard in his room without worrying about others. Yun looks out a window stating that attending the banquet is not just consideration for the escort team. He declares he has a bigger purpose for being there. A carriage travels at night under a dark sky. A man with long white hair thinks that Bastard is coming today. Yun's eyes glow as the name Sense Patton appears. An announcement is made for young Lord Sense Patton's entry. Sense Patton walks confidently into the hall. He scans the room with a smirk. Trunohilda watches Sense Patton with a serious expression. Sense Patton greets Chief Steward Trunohilda, noting his personal attendance. He mentions he heard the Sermon family arrived first and thinks Prince Kyle will be quite surprised. Sense Patton then asks where the famous Yun sermon is. Trunohilda asks what he means by famous, and Sense Patton replies surely everyone has heard. Sense Patton clarifies he is talking about the story of Yun, the Omen of Doom for sermon. Narration explains Sense is a mage who reached the 5th circle at just 15 years old and seems to be running wild with his family's full expectations. Trunohilda is visibly angered by the insult to the Sermon family at a banquet in their home territory. Sense Patton says such rumors could not be true and suggests finding and punishing those who disgraced a great family's name. Trunohilda thinks about Sense Patton as someone who started drinking at 7 and killed a Patton territory citizen at 12. An announcement is made that young Lord Yun German of the Sermon family is entering. Trunohilda is shocked, asking why someone who has been holed up in his room is suddenly here. Yun walks in looking dignified and well-dressed. People are surprised by his appearance, saying he is completely different from the rumors. They wonder where the Omen of Doom is in his dignified appearance and comment that the Sermon bloodline cannot be hidden. Sense Patton looks annoyed as Yun is surrounded by admiring people. Sense Patton is enraged, thinking the Sermon name again steals the attention that should be on him. Yun approaches Sense Patton. Yun addresses him as Sense Patton and says he has heard many stories from Brother Roz. Trunohilda looks surprised hearing the name Roz. Narration reveals Roz is the 4th son of the Sermon family who went missing. Sense Patton scoffs, saying he has heard quite a bit about Yun too. Yun smiles, thinking young Lord Sense Patton is such a kind person. Sense Patton recalls Yun attended the academy together and was famous for just a few months. Sense Patton glares at Yun, thinking about his reputation. He recalls Yun rescued a fellow student being bullied at the academy. Sense Patton also remembers Yun resolved the troubles of a female student who was being harassed. Yun asks Sense Patton what else Roz said. Yun smirks, mentioning something about knees. Trunohilda tells Sense Patton he heard young Lord Roz had knee pain and Sense brought him good medicine. He then says the Knight Commander had something to tell Yun, but he forgot and takes Yun's arm. Yun leans in close to Sense Patton. Trunohilda quickly pulls Yun away, telling him to stop glaring. Yun smirks with a glow around him. Sense Patton looks enraged by the encounter. Sense Patton wonders if Yun just threatened him. Yun walks away, thinking Sense Patton should get even angrier. Yun smiles to himself, stating Sense Patton's rage is an important seed in his plan. Sense Patton shouts Yun German, calling him a bastard. He recalls many stories from Brother Roz and how everyone knew his own reputation. He remembers being not just expelled, but kicked out with the Patton family using their power to silence the matter. He also recalls hearing that young Lord Sense had knee pain, a humiliation that must never be revealed. Sense breathes heavily in distress. A flashback begins, showing another character telling Sense he had crossed a line. Flashback Sense tries to explain he did not know the girl was Ras lover and was just being nice. The other character states the girl is an academy student and Sense used magic to harm her. He demands Sense get on his knees and beg forgiveness, or he will abandon his family name and kill him. Flashback Sense kneels before the other character and the girl. Back in the present, Sense screams in anguish. Yun thinks he needs to proceed with the plan to silence the ghost of Roz and his younger brother. He also thinks Sense is scheduled to meet a terrible fate soon anyway. Yun hears a knock at the door and tells them to enter. The door opens. Truno Hilda enters the room to meet him. Yun thinks this is an unexpectedly big fish for a secret meeting in the dead of night. The man is identified as Truno Hilda, chief steward of the Sermon family. A carriage with guards travels through a dark street. Yun thinks he accomplished everything planned during the party, shedding his scoundrel image, and now being perceived as intelligent but without talent for knighthood or magic. He thinks Sense Patton eagerly took the bait too. Truno Hilda tells Yun his conduct at the banquet and birthday party was remarkable, making him think the spark of hope for the Sermon family has not completely died out. Yun asks what Truno means, as he caused conflict with the Sense family instead of building relationships. Truno Hilda smiles, saying Yun's actions before Sense Patton were satisfying. Yun looks at Truno with a smirk. Yun taps the carriage wall, activating a soundproofing spell. Truno Hilda looks surprised and asks the young master what he is doing. Yun looks at him with a serious expression. Truno Hilda asks why Yun is activating the carriage's soundproofing and reminds him he just said the spark of hope has not completely died out. Yun says if Truno truly thought that way, he might not have chosen to betray the Sermon family. Truno Hilda's face shows shock and fear. He asks what Yun means, and Yun replies Truno's sin is great and unforgivable. The carriage continues to travel under the full moon. Yun says because Truno's sin was committed for the Sermon family's sake, it can be forgiven. Truno Hilda looks stunned. He asks how Yun knows. Yun says he knows how much Truno knows and that it was unavoidable. Yun tells Truno he will give him an opportunity to listen carefully and make his judgment. Truno Hilda looks at Yun with a troubled expression. The carriage continues its journey through the night. Yun looks thoughtful with a slight smirk. Truno Hilda looks distressed. Truno asks Yun how he thought of this plan. He asks how Yun planned all of this and what he truly is. Yun looks at Truno with a calm and serious expression. Truno covers his face with his hands and sighs. He continues to breathe heavily. Truno looks up with tears in his eyes, saying he wants to shout with joy. Yun smiles, stating he can tell what choice Truno will make. Yun tells Chief Steward Truno they have already passed the capital. Truno thinks about Yun's smile, wondering how he can smile knowing what is about to happen. Truno realizes it is not a smile. He thinks Yun's expression is vicious and chilling, showing killing intent. The carriage wheel is suddenly hit. A guard asks why they stopped and tells them to keep going. Another guard looks surprised. The coachman shouts in alarm that it is poison. A purple magical arrow flies towards a guard. A guard on horseback shouts that it is an ambush. Mana-infused arrows rain down and a guard shouts to protect the carriage. A guard shouts for mages to cast barriers first around the carriage. Another guard on horseback shouts how dare they attack the Sermon family and demands they come out and kneel. The magical barriers around the carriage deflect the incoming mana arrows. A guard shouts at someone not to approach the carriage without permission, threatening to cut them down. Inside the carriage, a faint sound is heard. A guard shouts that the young master is gone. The guards look shocked and ask what happened. A full moon shines brightly in a dark blue sky above silhouetted trees. Under the full moon, a hooded figure rides a dark horse at high speed, leaving blue energy trails. The hooded rider, panting with a determined expression, reveals glowing purple eyes. He continues to ride quickly with the young master slung over his shoulder. The young master hangs upside down, affected by darkness, sensory disruption, and physical debilitation. Yun German wonders how much time has passed, noting he is under too many status effect spells. He thinks the Sermon family escorts must be in chaos by now. Yun reflects that in his past life, this kidnapping incident caused the Sermon family's finances to collapse and led to their downfall. He then thinks that with his current self he can change things. Yun states he can use this incident today by adapting it to his purpose and timing. Truno Hilda looks shocked and asks if it is a staged downfall. Yun German explains the Sermon family's situation is critical, and showing himself trying to raise the family now is risky. He continues that other great families would check on them, and the current Sermon family could not handle a combined attack. Yun states he will deliberately spread rumors to show that the remaining Sermon direct bloodline could never threaten them, making them let their guard down. He notes the Patton family wants to eradicate the Sermon family's seeds, unlike other great families, so rumors only buy time. Yun German says he needs to use that fact because Sense Patton took his bait. He concludes that if Sense Patton is going to pull something, the way back from the capital is the perfect time. Yun adds that it is even better if there is an inside collaborator. He then tells Truno to choose now. Yun German asks Truno if he will make this upcoming incident the pinnacle of the Sermon family's downfall. Yun German's Mana Stat and Blue Earth cultivation technique resist the status effects. Yun thinks that everything up to this point went as calculated. He then hears someone say they are sorry. Truno continues to apologize to the young master while carrying him. Yun tells Truno to move according to plan, as that is the only way he will be forgiven. Truno's face is sweating as he looks down at the young master. Yun's mana resisted status effects and increased by 1 with all his stats reaching 20. Ryan is pleased this completes the first growth condition. Truno arrives at a building under the full moon with the young master. Truno delivers the young master to a group of cloaked figures, and one of them says he has done well. Since Patton never thought Truno would come personally for this kind of deal. Since Patton states that Chief Steward Truno Hilda of the Sermon family is selling out his young lord in this transaction. Truno replies that since Patton's words are excessive. Since Patton says he hears a barking dog that bit its master, and if Truno betrayed his master he should quietly accept the price. Since Patton presents a scroll stating it contains the promised information obtained through the Asan family's intelligence network and is verified. Truno asks if the information is reliable since the Asan family is famous as a family of assassins. Since Patton explains that information trading is also their main business, and they never sell false information. He adds that the scroll contains citing information of the Sermon family's missing direct bloodline. Ryan German observes that this is the reason Truno betrayed the Sermon family. Ryan realizes Truno is selling out a talentless direct bloodline to find the missing brothers who can truly lead the Sermon family. Since Patton thinks that even if Truno knew the Asan family held the information, he could not have bought it as the Patton family would have bid the highest price. Since Patton tells Truno he is leaving and that his job is done calling him a traitor. Truno tells Sense Patton to keep his promise and Sense Patton replies he will of course. Since Patton says the precious young lord will be returned to the Sermon family without incident. Since Patton smiles as Truno rides away with the young master. One of Sense Patton's subordinates asks if they should deal with Truno, but Sense Patton says it is not necessary as Truno is dead either way once he returns. Sense Patton thinks the Sermon family must have figured out Truno is the culprit and Truno needs to return for the grand plan to proceed. Ryan German asks himself if he is going to do it himself and replies he has to as he waited for this moment. The full moon illuminates the buildings outside. Ryan German's face shows determination. Sense Patton grabs Ryan's hair and asks if he is starting to understand the situation. Since Patton laughs saying he cannot hold back his laughter at a Sermon family direct bloodline being in such a pathetic state. Ryan asks Sense Patton what he is doing, and Sense Patton replies he kidnapped the precious Sermon family bloodline. Ryan threatens Sense Patton asking if he knows what will happen if he does this, but Sense Patton asks if Ryan is threatening him. Sense Patton asks if it is like at the banquet, and Ryan looks at him intently. Since Patton says it seems Ryan heard things from his brother Roz and asks if Roz did not tell him this. Since Patton shouts that Ryan's father and brothers all died and disappeared. Since Patton kicks Ryan telling him not to dare mess with the Patton family and that Ryan does not even know how he got here. Since Patton's kick connects with Ryan's face causing blood to splatter. Since Patton tells Ryan he was protected in a carriage surrounded by escort knights and that Truno sold him out. Since Patton points at Ryan and states Truno sold him for a single piece of citing information about his brothers. Since Patton stands over the bound Ryan and declares there is no one anywhere who will save him. Since Patton answers Ryan's earlier question about what will happen by saying it will be war between the Patton and Sermon families, and the kidnapping is the foundation stone. Ryan dismisses Sense Patton's words as blah 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 and calls him a moron for running his mouth so much. Ryan is surrounded by green energy. Sense Patton looks surprised as the green energy intensifies around Ryan. Ryan activates a magic circle. Ryan stands with a large glowing green magic circle behind and around him. Ryan's face became illuminated by an intense green energy. He stood within a glowing green magic circle, the energy swirling around him. Ryan declared he had waited for this day since returning to Drea as Sense Patton reacted with surprise. His feet were shown moving within the actively glowing magic circle. Outside, a tower also glowed green under a bright moon, reflecting the ritual's power. Ryan continued to stand in the magic circle while Sense Patton hung chained above him. Suddenly, Ryan exclaimed that nothing was happening as expected. He then grabbed Sense Patton's face, asking if this was merely a cheap trick to buy a few seconds. Ryan called him a moron, stating he had already told him his plans. Sense Patton replied that Ryan talked too much just as Ryan developed a nosebleed. Ryan reacted in pain as green energy swirled around his mouth. He made a pained sound as the green energy then enveloped his neck. Ryan clutched his throat, realizing his voice would not come out. Sense Patton explained he had used a silence magic circle to seal Ryan's advanced magic. Sense Patton then asked Ryan what he thought of a mage who could not chant spells. In response, Ryan activated a purple magic circle around his hand. He stated he would use Firebolt, which did not need chanting. Sense Patton countered that only spells up to the third circle could be used without chanting, meaning Ryan could not use lethal magic, and revealed the kidnapping was the Patton family head's order. Ryan continued to prepare a purple energy spell in his hand. Since Patton warned Ryan he would want to avoid his death, noting Ryan was using second circle magic below his level, calling it a fatal mistake. Ryan then fired a purple fire bolt directly at Sense Patton. Sense Patton thought his father would forgive him for taking one leg. He smiled, a bead of sweat visible on his face. The firebolt hit Sense Patton's leg, but green energy immediately blocked it. A system message appeared stating firebolt magic was resisted as Ryan looked on. Ryan prepared another firebolt, this time with a wider purple magic circle. Sense Patton asked if it was third circle magic, now saying Ryan had wasted his last chance, and questioned if Ryan thought he would just stand there. Sense Patton then cast a blue magic circle that clashed with Ryan's fire bolt. The blue magic circle successfully deflected Ryan's attack. Ryan looked surprised as blue energy began to surround him. Sense Patton stated it was mana disruption. He explained that when a preset level of magic activated, he immediately dispelled it, ensuring nothing Ryan tried would work. Ryan looked on with a grim expression. He then pulled out a dagger. Sense Patton looked surprised by this action. Ryan had broken his chains and now held a dagger at Sense Patton. Sense Patton asked if Ryan was surprised, stating breaking these chains was nothing for him now, but added there were more. Sense Patton clarified there were not just two magic circles at play. He then cast a paralyzed spell on Ryan. Ryan screamed in pain as Sense Patton smiled. Ryan fell to the ground screaming as blue lightning struck him. Sense Patton stood over him, saying they would see what happened when he woke up. Sense Patton smiled, declaring that this time their roles were reversed. The scene then showed the blue-lit room where Ryan was held. Ryan woke up with a groan. Sense Patton asked if he was awake, now saying he had slept so long he was thinking of waking him up, and complimented Ryan's dagger. Ryan was chained again, his arms secured above his head. He looked at his chained wrists in surprise. Ryan's expression turned angry. He realized his voice worked and he was tied with simple chains, not mana restraints, thinking he could escape. Ryan tried to cast Wind Cut, but green energy immediately choked him. He screamed in pain as Sense Patton asked if he thought he was careless. Ryan groaned, wondering how the magic circles were active when he did not see them anywhere. Sense Patton asked if Ryan thought he would restrain a mage without any countermeasures. Sense Patton smiled, holding the dagger, and said he had already drawn magic circles all over Ryan's body. Ryan asked what that meant as Sense Patton suddenly stabbed him. Ryan's eyes widened in pain as blood splattered. Sense Patton explained the forbidden technique of carving magic circle scars into flesh and the effect this blood magic circle activated. Sense Patton added he had cast an awakening spell so Ryan could not even lose consciousness. He reminded Ryan that he had carved scars with a dagger into the body of a 12-year-old child. Ryan asked how Sense Patton knew this magic as blood dripped from his face. Sense Patton replied that according to his investigation, Ryan should not be able to use mana, explaining it was thanks to his past life memories and experience in Idian. Sense Patton narrated that 3 months ago, after obtaining the mana cultivation technique, he focused on leveling up the stealth skill with Colin's scene in the background. He added that obtaining other skills was not difficult thanks to the circuit secret he learned about skills in Idian. Sense Patton explained each skill has its own circuit, and mana is injected into each player's unique circuit to activate it. He continued that only those who reached master player like him realized the existence of circuits, and he still remembered all the circuits of the skills he obtained. Sense Patton stated he did not need to study or do repetitive training to obtain skills. He just needed mana and qualification, with Sena and Alejandro shown in the background. He narrated that using the stealth skill, he secretly left the Sermon estate whenever he could. Sense Patton came to this place, whose location and structure he vividly remembered, to set up traps with skills in advance to catch Ryan. Sense Patton said he was grateful Ryan fell for it so easily. He explained the magic circle amplified the pain Ryan originally planned to use on him, and Ryan should worry about how it would be used on him. Ryan begged Sense Patton to stop saying it hurt. Sense Patton smiled, holding the bloody dagger, and asked if he should end it here for today. Ryan began to thank him with tears in his eyes. Ryan then shouted no as Sense Patton turned his back. Ryan offered Sense Patton a chance, saying his family's people were coming soon, so he should run away, adding he was telling him since Sense Patton stopped torturing him. Sense Patton asked if it was in 1 week, to which Ryan asked how he knew that. Sense Patton said he told his subordinate who came with him to come back in a week, so he could enjoy torturing Ryan alone. Ryan gasped, asking if Sense Patton was not unconscious, then shouted that they would come right away. Sense Patton asked if Ryan would tell him about the Patton family coming, given his personality, stating Ryan would keep his mouth shut. Ryan insisted the Patton family members who found this place could kill him. The Patton family's direct force, the fingers of Patton, then appeared as shadowy figures. The Patton family's direct force, the fingers of Patton, materialized as shadowy figures. Ryan screamed, confirming their presence was true. He then punched the god of Idian, splattering blood. A glowing red and yellow magical symbol appeared on the god of Idian's chest. Ryan then told him to keep howling and screaming, promising he would not touch him anymore that day. The god of Idian screamed Ryan's name in response. Ryan stood surrounded by magic circles, asking if they should prepare to greet their guests. He thought he could not afford a single mistake when facing the Patton family's elite, who were arriving in a week. 1 week later, the building stood silhouetted against the sunset. Several hooded figures arrived confirming this was the correct location. One of them explained that their young Lord Sense Patton had been inside for a week having kidnapped the sermon brat with no contact since. A masked figure asked if there had been any other approach during the week. Another figure replied that they had been monitoring the passage for certain. The masked figure walked forward annoyed that the young lord might have caused trouble by being absorbed in torture games. He stated the family head's order was to bring the sermon brat Rai Yun back alive. He declared he was going in and used magic to break through a barrier. He explained that the fingers of Patton prioritized the family head's orders above all else even over the Patton bloodline. The barrier shattered as the figure stepped through. He then stated he was going alone. He ordered the others to wait outside, believing they would just get in the way. The masked figure walked down a dark staircase with purple energy trailing him. His armored boots echoed as he stepped down the stairs. He thought it was strange there was an ominous presence but no mana. Suddenly multiple magic circles appeared on the floor and walls around him. He jumped to avoid a trap that erupted from the floor. He yelled barrier as he created a purple shield to block an incoming attack. He thought this was the worst, and something must have happened to Sense Patton, then cast a detect trap spell. He saw traps connected and operated by magic circles, realizing someone skilled knew the place's structure well. He realized all passages had traps laid out, wondering if it was the sermon family or a third party. He encountered a double barrier, deciding he did not have time to deal with them one by one. He glared with purple eyes through his mask. He warned whoever was responsible that they would regret challenging the fingers of Patton. The corridor was dark, revealing a barred gate and blood on the floor. More blood dripped onto the floor nearby. Sense Patton was chained and covered in blood from torture. The masked figure broke through the gate with a purple energy blast. The chains binding Sense Patton shattered. The masked figure yelled young lord in concern. He approached the heavily injured Sense Patton as the chains broke. He asked what had happened and Sense Patton weakly uttered his name Ike. Sense Patton's face was covered in blood. Ike sensed the mana and confirmed it was Sense Patton. He looked at Sense Patton wondering what had transpired. Ike decided they needed to escape this place first and Sense Patton needed a recovery potion. He noted the enemy had not shown themselves yet and it was dangerous, especially with the many traps on the way. Ike realized the enemy subdued and restrained Sense Patton, but did not take Rai Yun, meaning it was not just about rescue. He concluded Rai Yun was definitely bait, but he could not abandon his mission. Ike saw Rai Yun floating in purple energy and thought that was him. Sense Patton screamed that Rai Yun German was the one who did this to him. Ike looked at Rai Yun as Sense Patton called him a bastard. Ike decided to use 7th Circle Complete Binding Magic on Rai Yun, intending to strip away his will and shatter his body and mind. He was interrupted by a voice telling him he was too cautious. Sense Patton yelled fireball and launched a fiery attack from his staff. Ike realized it was illusion magic as the fireball exploded harmlessly. He felt the backlash from canceling the 7th circle spell before finishing the chant. Rai Yun appeared next to him saying the mana was flowing backward, and it was painful, but a grand mage like Ike would recover quickly. Rai Yun added that Ike should have dealt with him first when he noticed something was off upon entering the room. Ike raised his staff, creating a purple magic circle. Rai Yun smiled as Ike expressed disgust at the use of illusions against him, a master of illusion magic. Ike commanded the false visions to disappear using illusion delete. The illusions of Sense Patton and the other figures vanished in purple and green energy. Rai Yun lunged forward with a dagger. Rai Yun moved quickly with green energy around him. A split panel showed Rai Yun's glowing green eye and Ike's glowing purple eye. Rai Yun attacked Ike with a kick. Ike thought Rai Yun was arrogant. Rai Yun continued his rapid assault on Ike. Ike blocked Rai Yun's attack, asking if he thought catching him off guard was enough. He said the family head would let it slide even if he melted half of Rai Yun's face. Ike told Rai Yun that the illusion was probably his last trick, and if he had a more effective ace he would have used it before charging. Ike asked how much Rai Yun underestimated the fingers of Patton. He then noticed a dagger. Ike's eye widened in surprise. Rai Yun stabbed Ike in the neck. Ike gasped as Rai Yun grabbed his face. Rai Yun asked Ike if he was the young lord, then called his arrogance unbearable to watch. Rai Yun explained that Sense Patton's soul was trapped in his body, unconscious right now, and he predicted Ike could not kill him due to family head's orders. He revealed the blood magic circle drawn on his body had more than just pain amplification carved into it. Rai Yun stated it was magic that transmits one's own soul to another and controls that body, calling it his real ace in the hole. Ike was shocked as purple energy surged around him. An explosion erupted in the corridor. Ike's broken mask fell to the ground. Ike's body disintegrated into orange energy as Rai Yun stood over him. Rai Yun, still in senses, body was covered in blood, a glowing symbol now visible on his chest. He smiled grimly, stating he had successfully defeated Ike. He then stood over Ike's charred and mangled remains. Ryan then held a bottle containing a blue liquid. He poured the liquid over himself as a message, confirmed a pain-resistant skill had been generated and its rank increased. Ryan clutched his head saying it hurt, but there was no choice as he needed a visible wound made by Ike on Sense's body. He raised his hands in triumph, proclaiming he had hunted one of the fingers of Patton, a 7th Circle Grand Mage. Ryan flexed as a golden window appeared stating the quest completed and level increased. He questioned the quest, understanding the leveling up but not the quest itself. A golden screen displayed Ryan German level 15. Ryan noted his level had jumped from 2 to 15 after defeating Ike. He wondered if it was due to the quest, then decided he needed to hurry with something else. A complex red magic circle began to glow. Ryan dragged Ike's body across the floor. A trail of blood marked the path where Ike's body was dragged. Ryan placed Ike's body on an altar within the magic circle, stating its success would shorten his future plans. Glowing red circuits appeared on Ryan's body as he explained they were engraved on the soul rather than the body. He stated that even in Sense's body he could use his own mana. Ryan prepared to pour mana into the prepared circuit. He stated his level would drop as mana disappeared, and his level decreased by 5. A hidden class was unlocked as Ryan performed the ritual. A golden window described Shadow as a hidden class for assassins that required specific agility and mana. Ryan thought it was a success but considered if he still had levels left. He believed he could try 2 more times and could do it. Blue lightning energy surged around him. Ryan in Sense's body was surrounded by blue energy as he continued the ritual. Messages confirmed class advancement successful, and that he had achieved the additional condition by advancing to Hand of Death, the advanced class of Necromancer. A golden window detailed Hand of Death as an advanced class of Necromancer, and Ryan noted one of 2 attempts had succeeded with his initial plan being to stop there. He realized his level had jumped much higher after defeating Patton's finger, and considered a 3rd advancement with his remaining levels. Ryan stated he could obtain the hidden class Ghost, described as a class for someone with both Assassin and Necromancer classes who unlocks the Sense stat. He explained that Ghost was the ultimate class to rise as the strongest in Idian with great synergy with Necromancer and Assassin. Ryan considered obtaining Ghost's advanced class like he did with Shadow and Hand of Death, but noted the important factor was soul size. He worried about potential backlash if he failed with his current level. Ryan declared that if he succeeded his plan would proceed smoothly. He decided there was no time to hesitate and his level decreased by 5 again. Ryan's soul was wounded and rest was needed for soul recovery. He screamed as he was racked with pain and purple energy. Ryan described the pain as his entire body being torn apart and questioned if a 3rd advanced class was too much. Blood streamed from Ryan's eye. He was racked with pain as Sense's original body appeared above him amidst purple lightning. Ryan declared he would sacrifice his very soul to obtain Ghost's advanced class. A powerful burst of purple and blue energy emanated from him. A message confirmed he possessed a sufficiently large soul. A hidden class was unlocked as Ryan expressed a plea. A golden window stated he had advanced to Phantom, the advanced class of Ghost. Another window displayed Phantom as the advanced class of the hidden class Ghost. Ryan looked surprised and questioned the name Phantom. He was shown with a phantom-like figure behind him indicating the new class. Ryan explained that as an advanced class of Ghost, Phantom would be similar to Ghost. He touched his face and stated he had obtained everything he wanted. Ryan stood over Ike's body on the altar and declared it was time to execute the original plan. He explained that Ghost's passive ability originally enhanced the Necromancer's necromancy. Ryan stated that killing the 7th Circle Grand Mage was also part of executing this plan. He thought the precious material of Ike's body needed to hold up. Ryan smiled, stating if this succeeded his plan could be shortened significantly, and a skill message appeared. A message stated activating Lick Creation, and Ryan explained it was possible with a 7th Circle Mage as material even if his Necromancer level was not 70. A message appeared stating Lick Creation failed, then activating Special Undead Creation. Ryan's eye widened in shock at the unexpected outcome. Dark purple energy and a shadowy figure emerged next to Ryan as he covered his face. Ryan stood facing the emerging dark purple energy and shadowy figure. The shadowy figure began to solidify into a distinct form. A powerful female undead figure appeared before Ryan, and a message confirmed special undead creation succeeded. A blue-framed prompt asked if he would like to name it.